Hello and welcome to another edition of the Scoutcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Joe.
And my name is Kylie.
Kylie, what is coming up on the show?
So we've got a good bit to cover. We've got first up how we did in Gameweek 23, a bit of a recap.
Oh, brilliant game week.
And actually, feels so strange to say Gameweek 23. I feel like that was a century ago. It's been so long between all of them. So back to FPL. So we are doing things a little bit differently, obviously, as the deadline is imminent. So it's a bit of a mashup between Scoutcast and Deadline Stream. We're also going to focus on our plans for Game Week 24, any last minute changes perhaps before the deadline. And then, of course, we're going to have a look at the doubles that are on their way, blanks coming too, and have a think about what planning we should be doing around those. Then we'll take a look at the next 4 fixtures. So that'll cover that off a bit as well. A recap of the community team, and then some quick fire questions at the end.
Yes, indeed. So this is a slightly different Scoutcast. So we're combining it with a sort of deadline show. So we've got a deadline fast approaching. So we'll be discussing our moves. We might be making moves mid-show as well. And then to keep it all fresh, so you can keep looking back for the rest of the week, we're also going to look ahead to Game Week 25 and 26 and outline some of our planning for that as well. Just before we look back on our absolutely disastrous Game Week 23, as you can see by the colour of our red arrows on the screen, just want to welcome some of those in the live chat. Just a dad posting stuff, Matthew Kent, FPL Gaza, Geo Boys, Die, and all the others, Ace Adventura. Thanks so much for joining us nice and early, and hello in advance to all those enjoying us. And Matthew points out that Kylie is one Aussie who won't be getting cancelled by Channel 5. And that is a reference to the potential sad demise of Neighbours from our screens. And I remember many a day lunchtime watching that at school. And I had the privilege of going to the set of it, or I think it was the road. I think it was the road it was set on, or something where it was filmed.
That's not actually too far from where I grew up. What? I used to see the Neighbours tour bus go past, and you'd actually see, I never watched Neighbours myself, but you'd actually see just sort of at the local Coles, which is sort of like a supermarket, you'd see all of the actors and actresses loitering around there on their breaks.
It's exciting. Joe Mangle used to buy wine in the off-licence I worked in. And that got me very excited. So enough of the Neighbours chat. Let's move on to our disastrous Game Week 23. Right, I'll go first. I might as well. Look at that. 33. But I took a -4 to achieve that mighty total. De Gea got me a clean sheet. Jota got me an assist. Mason Mount got me an assist. King bizarrely felt like a good captain because my vice captain Dennis was a -1. So that was great. That wasn't very good. I slipped to 130k-ish. So a small red arrow for me. But Antonio and Ronaldo made way for those mighty Hornets. So I was quite pleased about that because I was getting rid of a couple of players that I wasn't quite keen on. So Kylie, I'll put your team up on the screen. I'm not dwelling on mine too long, you see.
Mine gets worse.
Yeah. Do you want to mention any players of note and what your moves were for your 34 points?
So in my descent into misery, I think it's 34 minus an 8-point hit. Now I'm not obviously the 8-point hit wasn't particularly lucrative, but it did better set me up. So I got rid of Ronaldo, Gray, and Son. Unfortunately, Son is obviously now back fit, but it is what it is. I got in KDB, Rafinha, and Dennis. Now, the thing is, I was adamant all week leading up to that deadline that I was captaining De Bruyne, even when news dropped in about Dennis and his double game week, and then there's something about these evening deadlines that are killing me. I finish work and then I go into an absolute tiz, and all of a sudden Dennis was my captain. So then it was like, of course he gets sent off. That seems inevitable. And then Kevin does pretty well with 8 points, which was pretty much other than that Ramsdale got me a clean sheet. But yeah, that was it. So it was pretty grim.
Yeah, but I mean, De Bruyne comes in. I mean, better the
Yeah,
devil you
happy with
know. He's in there, and so you should be so lucky to have a
Yes.
player of his merit
Happy to
there.
have him this week now.
Yes, definitely. And thanks a lot to FPL Gaza in the live chat for those Kylie references. Let's move on to next four. You didn't spot any of those. You're not a Kylie
No.
Minogue fan at all, are you? No.
Oh,
Sorry.
I do get that a bit.
No, it's fine. I saw her live actually at Glastonbury, and my son fell asleep. But I was still like, wow, it's Kylie. But anyway, so let's move on to next four fixtures. So we're bringing this ahead a little bit because we've got the deadline soon. So this hopefully will help us a bit because any moves we're making now, we've got to do a bit of planning now. We can't mess around with luxury moves. We've got to get players in that we definitely want. We definitely want a captain. You know, don't mangle our teams up in order to get well, as our teams have been in the last couple of months or so. So looking at the next four, I've expanded it to the next 5 fixtures, going right up to Gameweek 28. Crystal Palace are top.
Yep.
And they do have a double, Gameweek 28. Got Norwich and Brentford, Watford and Chelsea in the double, then Burnley and Wolves. Then Tottenham, Southampton and Wolves up next, then City, Burnley. So not a great double, but then they've got Leeds and Everton. So yeah, I can see why there's a lot of interest in Kane, who we spoke about last time you were on.
Yes.
There's Burnley, Manchester United have got Burnley, Southampton in the double next week. So next Scoutcast, we're going to really go to town on mentioning. Well, actually, it won't be the next Scoutcast because that's coming up this weekend, isn't it?
This weekend, yeah.
Thick and fast. We'll talk about them now then. And then, so Manchester United got Burnley, Southampton, and Brighton in the double, and then Leeds, and then Watford, and Man City. So it gets a bit nasty at Game Week 28. Aston Villa, no doubles, but Leeds, Newcastle, Watford, Brighton, and Southampton. But right down the bottom, Chelsea, because they're not playing at all. They've got Crystal Palace and Burnley in the next 5, but nothing else because they're off at the Club World Cup Championship, whatever it's called. Leicester, really bad defence. Brendan Rodgers seemingly hates all his players, apart from Justin. He was talking him up, but the rest of them he hates. But they've got Liverpool, West Ham, Wolves, and Leeds, so not great fixtures at all. And Arsenal are down there as well because of their 2 blanks. They've got 25 and 27. But then they have a great double game week of Brentford and Wolves. Great for their defenders anyway. And also Wolves again in Game Week 24. And then Watford at Game Week 28. So they're the sort of top and the bottom. What do you when you look at the fixtures to come, does it give you any sort of vague plans? I mean, we know much more now about the doubles and the blanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is a particularly interesting period and season because we've obviously got a lot going on with piecemeal blanks and doubles and then a major double over the next couple of weeks. And we're going to see more of that throughout the season because there are so many fixtures that are remaining for teams. But also we have people in quite different situations in terms of the chips that they have. So people have 2 free hits, some people have 1. Some people might have no free hits. There are people wildcarding. So I think we're going to see much more diversity around how people deploy their chips over the coming weeks, which I think makes it quite exciting. But it does mean that everyone's having to look with every single transfer that they're making from this point onwards at how they are going to navigate the next period to potentially maximize returns from doubles, but still ensure that they have a degree of coverage for those blank weeks. So I think most people, myself included, have, and I have the 1 free hit. I've unsuccessfully used the first one. So I'm really trying to look at how I can make the most out of maybe double in next week, really make the most out of 26 and try and skate by Game Week 27. A muddle through approach for that one, I think, because we do also, which isn't covered in that little fixture run that we did there, is a very large blank week in 30.
Yes.
So currently we've only got 3 fixtures and it looks like maybe there might be 1 more that falls in. I think the Southampton match might fall in if West Ham beat them in the FA Cup.
Yep.
But that's looking pretty tiny compared to the otherwise concerning 27. So it's going to be a little bit of chaos, but I quite like that. I think that, could be a good opportunity.
It could. We have to think, ahead to these moves. So, I mean, a good one, I'm having to think about is game week 27, because people can see here, and for those listening on the podcast, I'll describe it, is a massive blank for a whole bunch of teams. Leicester, Chelsea, Arsenal and Liverpool, and they're the two key ones, I think, because Arsenal and Liverpool have a really great double game week 26. So if you load up on them, if you've got 3 each, so you've got 6 of them, and say one of them's a goalkeeper, so you've got a spare goalkeeper, you've got 5 players, so you're probably gonna have to take a hit to field 11. So is that worth it? And so I'm having to think about that as well. I've got 2 Arsenal, I'll have 3 Liverpool, and I'm thinking of if I go for another Arsenal player, then that's just going to cost me hits or less players the following week. So these are the kinds of things we've got to think about now, really, about their moves. So do you want to? I guess the best way of looking at it is to talk about our own teams. So we've got the deadline fast approaching. To timestamp this, it's 5:45, and the deadline is at 6:15. So when that approaches, the countdown clock will go, and we'll all panic. But I guess the best way to explain sort of how we as managers are trying to navigate all this is how we're going to do it. So what we're going to do this game week and beyond. So I'll put your team up. If you can describe, this is your team so far. I don't know if you've made any changes. So if you can sort of go through who you've got, who you're fielding and who you're captaining, and what your plans are for what we've just discussed, fixtures coming up.
Yep. So my team currently, as it stands, I've got quite a weak bench situation, so I want to remedy that, and I have got quite a detailed plan for the coming week. So what I'm actually doing this week is transferring out Antonio. Finally, I know it's very late to be getting rid of him, and Watford isn't exactly a bad match. I'm hoping Roy Hodgson keeps that match tight now that I'm selling Antonio.
First clean sheet for Watford in something like 6 managers, and coincided with the most boring manager known to mankind.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a correlation there. I'm just hoping it doesn't extend to this game week. I'm hoping it does extend, I should say. I really want them to keep Antonio out. So I'm selling Antonio for Edouard from Crystal Palace. I was quite keen on him before the double game week announcement came out, simply because the next couple of fixtures and the fixtures really around the double in 26 are very good. And also, as we've all discussed this season, there's a real lack of compelling forward options. So he's going in. It gives me an extra 2 million, which is quite helpful given what I want to do. The other big move for me is that I'm actually bringing Robertson in for Duffy, who has been a curse on my bench for so long.
What an upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, this is what happens when you've so much money in the bank. Don't know what to do with. I'm just spending all over the place. And many might be looking at that decision and thinking, okay, that's you with 3 Liverpool players. And it is. And I obviously will be getting Salah in place of Jota in a couple of weeks. And it's not necessarily something that I'd advocate to others to do, to be swapping around. It feels a little bit like a luxury move to be swapping around your 3 Liverpool slots, given how close together everything is. But, for me, I've got Martinelli in my team. I've got Rafinha in my team. They have good doubles. I don't want to move them. I don't want to move Bowen. I have De Bruyne, and I really want to keep him. He's my captain for this week, and I want to keep him for Norwich next week as well. So it's like, okay, I'm going to have to do something. So next week, Jota is actually going to go to Bruno, and then Bruno's going to go to Salah in this sort of hokey-pokey situation. So ultimately, come game week 26, I plan to have a combo of Robbo, Trent, and Salah as my trio. Now, there's obviously a bit of concern around rotation for Robbo, given the number of fixtures that Liverpool have, some of them very important, that, we've got Simicast waiting in the wings. Does he play one? I still think there's an opportunity with Robbo given his form. He's got 7 assists and a goal in the last 8 games that he's played. So it was before and after the ban that he had. And he's a point of difference, I think, at a time when it's quite challenging to find really compelling points of difference in your team. And it just so happens to be a weak spot in my team currently is the defense. So basically, he's coming in. Dawson will fall to the bench, which isn't a bad backup. You know, he's got Watford. West Ham's defense is quite poor, but Watford's defense, particularly under Roy, should be quite poor as well. So if Rafinha does indeed miss out because he's flagged, he should come in. So I think I'm fairly well set up, and I've got a pretty clear plan to get me through the next couple of weeks, unless people get injured.
Okay, so just for the benefit, just a reminder for the benefit of those listening on the podcast version, you've got Ramsdale, Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo and Dawson currently. Jota, Bowen, Martinelli, Rafinha, De Bruyne as your captain, Antonio and Dennis. But as you were saying there, Duffy and Antonio out for Robbo and Edouard, and then Dawson moving off there. So that's the plan for this week, and that sort of sets you up. We were talking before we came on air, weren't we? We've actually all had a wild card. We don't even know we've had a wild card. Because I've personally taken about 3 -8s in a row. I've completely overhauled my team in the last 6 weeks. So it is what it is, and somehow we've ended up with double, single Watford strikers and the such like. But we've also got some good players in there, and you've ended up with Martinelli, who's got a double. You're going to get Robertson in. You've got De Bruyne in there, who's probably the best captain on paper this week. So it's pretty good. What's the plan then for game week 25? So you've got this. So what happens in game week 25 to this team?
So there's an obvious issue in my team here in that I've got Ramsdale as my primary keeper, who will not be playing in game week 25 because that fixture has been called off due to Chelsea's Club World Cup commitments. So now it's a little bit interesting now that Foster is back. It kind of gives me the option to potentially play him. My original plan, and possibly still that plan, is to change him. I could go Sanchez because he's a little bit cheaper than De Gea, or I could go De Gea there just simply because of ownership. I'm quite keen to see how this game week goes and decide, because it would be involving a hit, because there is another move I need to make as well. The other move being that with my oodles of money in the bank, I will be doing Jota to Bruno and captaining Bruno. I've no interest in Ronaldo. I'm sufficiently traumatized by him after recent weeks. And I do just think that I'm more comfortable with having Bruno in there and captaining him. And I'm keen to still have De Bruyne in my team at that point. So that is a definite move. And then I'm going to see how Foster looks this weekend and basically decide, do I want to take a 4-point hit to change a playing keeper? I might not, just even though he's got a double. And that's the only investment that I'm going to have for 25, because I really don't want to over-invest in the game week 25 double. I have been guilty of doing that before. I want to maximize the 26 double as well. And with my current plan, I would have 9 in 26, because I would then be moving Bruno and De Bruyne to Salah and Son for game week 26. And that would basically give me 9 plus Bowen and Cancelo, who have a single. I'm quite happy to play both of those in that game week.
Definitely. So for game week 27, so then you find yourself with
5,
3 Liverpool. I'm thinking outfield players. So you'll have Ramsdale and another goalkeeper.
Backup keeper,
that's fine. So you'll basically have just the 3 Liverpool and the single Arsenal player, outfield player. And so that's just one move, isn't it? That's just one move.
Yeah.
So
it's just bench. It's probably moving Martinelli. it could be Robbo. I mean, there are other defenders I like. I quite like the idea of Luca Digne.
Yeah.
So, maybe I end up going Robbo to him, but I'd be realistically quite happy to ship Martinelli at that point. Bench those three, play Dawson. And I mean, Broja and Livramento probably both playing at that point. So, I think I'll be able to get by it okay.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing you've highlighted there is the need to get to. I mean, you've got lots of money in the bank, and I have, and a number of people have as well. It's time to spend that and get that. And I think a lot of people. I was just sort of juggling around with players and teams and seeing what I could get. And 3 premiums is still just out of reach because the rest of the team suffers. But 2 premiums are great. And I think it was the last Scoutcast I did. Where I was saying that I've sort of had it with premium forwards. I just think there's much more points available midfielders. So I've sort of resigned myself to a setup with 2 premium midfielders. I was thinking of Kane, but Salah needs to be one of those midfielders. So Salah and Kane, it really restricts the rest of the team. So I think Salah plus Bruno Fernandes or plus Son. These are really great options, and I think Son can cover Kane and Kane can cover Son. If one of them does well, the other one's probably done well as well. That's probably, the way I think about it. And Ronaldo, I was like you. I'd had enough, it's just not reliable for the captaincy, and for that price you need that. And I think Kane is. I think Son is. De Bruyne is. Salah is. And I think Fernandes is. To some extent. But these are tricky things to deal with. But yeah, he's got a few hits there going there. So how many hits is that over the 24, 27? Do you think it's worth it?
It's quite a few. So it's a hit this week. If I do the keeper move next week, that would be a second hit. Then it would be a hit going into Gameweek 26. So that's 12 points worth of hits. So between 8 and 12 hits to get me from now until through Gameweek 27. I think yes, because I just don't want to commit to an additional free hit or a wild card at this point when we know that there are more fixtures to be scheduled. I'd rather get the lay of the land. And I'm mostly quite happy with who I have. There are tweaks to make, but it can be navigated with a hit a week over the next few weeks, assuming there is no kind of crisis that happens, and we can never assume that. But I'm not averse to hits, and as you said, having taken hits, as many of us have over the last few weeks, just simply to get through the chaos that has been this season, I think we're all a little bit like desensitized to how dramatic they are to take. And if it helps your team, 4 points isn't a huge commitment if you're going to have those people for a good bit. And part of this, using the Edouard example, is that he has great fixtures surrounding the double game week, and I do think that the strikers are an area of weakness. So it's a punt that I'm quite willing to take, and given his current form, he's more than able to make up for that over the period that I will have him.
Yeah, I mean, I think hits all invariably. I think pretty much most of the time I've used a hit in a double game week. It pays for itself. Even this week, last disastrous week where I got rid of Antonio and Ronaldo for Dennis and King, but captain King. Weirdly, I think I was only 1 point down, and that was an absolute disaster. So if the worst case scenario is more or less breaking even or just a point down, but I think all the other double game weeks, they've always paid for themselves, because as you just said, these players, they play twice. So if you've got a midfielder and they can keep a clean sheet as well, and especially I like hits for goalkeepers in double game weeks. So
they have such a good history, don't they?
and every time I think I should be captaining one, and I'm probably thinking this time De Gea rather than Fernandes could be the one. I think was it the last game, double game with Burnley. It was Nick Pope. What did he get? 19. It was save points.
It's almost every time it's a goalkeeper, and that's part of the appeal for me of taking that hit. next week for a double game week keeper, because there's just that legacy of one of them doing well.
Definitely. I haven't asked you about chip strategy as well. So you've used, like me, we both used the free hits. We obviously used our pre-Christmas wildcard, obviously. So you've got a wildcard, a free hit, triple captain, bench boost.
And the bench boost,
when's the vague plan to use all of those?
So for me, I'm probably going to go with the quite obvious move of triple captaining Salah in game week 26.
Yeah.
I just think that combination of fixtures, it would be quite stressful. I'm not sure I want to take the stress of not triple captaining Salah on in that game week. I know that there are people who are looking at the alternative of bench boosting in that game week. And I think if you're someone who's just freshly wildcarded, that maybe there's a case for that, because obviously we expect more rotation later on in the season. And that can be a challenge when you're bench boosting late. But I still don't think that my team, even with those hits, would be optimized enough for a bench boost. So gonna go with that. And then I'm hoping to muddle through 27 because I think I can. I don't love playing a free hit in an uber blank like 30 is looking, but there's still some good teams in there. So I'm going to monitor it. I might end up playing it then or holding fire and going with a limited team if I think that there's not going to be huge points potential. And then wild carding and probably bench boosting in combination for the latter big game week, double game week that we'd expect.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the bench boost is, I hope the game week 36's doubles are good, but they could be awful. But I hate the bench boost. I'd love to get it out of the way now.
Same.
And I would love it if game week 26 I was set up and I had just happened to have lots of nice cheap defenders who are doubling. But I'm not really set up like that. So for me, it isn't. But anyone who's just maybe a transfer away from having a really credible bench of great single game week players and credible double game week players, that's a really good time to use it, because if people are anything like me, bench boost, I just hate it because you sort of you rely on it so much and it can let you down.
Constant disappointment. And also it really, I think the difference with the triple captain and the bench boost is that the triple captain you think about in the context of 1 week, and if you don't have the optimal player, you can bring them in with a transfer, right? So it doesn't really disrupt your flow. Whereas the bench boost, that one really just massively impacts the moves that you'll make around it. You take extra hits, you bring in some crazy players.
Yeah, you can't have
all sorts of things
like a nothing goalkeeper or something to save money there. You can't do those things.
No. Yeah. So it's I think it massively impacts how you play the game around the time when you're bench boosting. So I love the idea of getting rid of it early, but I'm just not going to be ready for it either.
Okay, let's have a look at my team. So this is my team. Oh, I must say actually, FPL Nymphria has been drafted in with her graphic skills to do all of our team pictures, and we've also got some great stats coming up soon as well, and she's designed that as well. So thanks for that. I will also say that in my current team, I'm about to butcher this as well, because what I'm going to do is people who are watching, I'll go through my team in a minute for those listening on the podcast, but people watching can see I've got Mason Mount there who's not playing, and I have 11.3 million in the bank. So Mason Mount's going to go, and he's going to go for pretty much anyone I want. I could get, I don't know, Maradona or Pele or whatever. I could get a real proper fantasy player in. So what I'll do is I will butcher her wonderful graphics and reveal who I put in there in a second. So I'll do it in good time for the deadline. So at the moment I've got a 3-5-2. As I said, I now hate strikers. So I'm in. I've got De Gea, Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, and Rudiger. So happy with that. I've got Jota, Bowen, Martinelli, Gallagher. And Mason Mount, who's not playing, and then I've got Ollie Watkins, I've got King here, but I'm actually going to field Dennis instead of King. I feel that King is a known quantity. He might get a penalty. Dennis is an unknown quantity under Roy Hodgson, who was talking him up. So he offers me some kind of hope. And he has a better pedigree of scoring this season. Yeah. Anyway, and on my bench, I've got Steele from Brighton, non-player. This one I'm not bench boosting. It'll be Josh King. I've got Diop, who's probably going to play because it doesn't look like Zuma's going to play for fairly obvious reasons if people want to just open a newspaper. Livramento as well, who's back. So I'm just going to keep him for whenever they double. So my immediate plan is, Gameweek24, mount to anyone. So I was thinking, who's it going to be? Could be KDB, could be Son, could be Bruno, could be Salah. So, drum roll. Here we go. There we go. Boom-de-boom. It's Salah. I've got the best player against the worst defence, and I'm going to give him the captaincy as well. Why not? The vice captaincy will go on to Jota, not Watkins, I think. I'm quite gung-ho about Liverpool trouncing Leicester. So it's De Gea, Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, Rudiger. It's basically the same as I just described. Mount's gone, Salah's in, and captain. There's a whole bunch of reasons why I'm going. Salah's like topping all the metrics, even though he's been in another continent. So that's quite something. And also, in terms of looking at the worst defences, I looked at the worst defences last 4. In terms of expected goals conceded, Leicester are 11.56 and have 1 clean sheet in the last 4.
It's horrendous.
The next worst defence in terms of expected goals conceded is Leeds, 7.58. So there's a massive gulf between the worst defence and the next worst defence. And then you've got the likes of Newcastle, Brentford and Southampton, who are doing pretty poorly in terms of their defence at the moment. So I looked at that and I thought, well, I'd probably captain Jota, but hang on. I was doing the team news video and podcast with Neil earlier, and do urge people to go and quickly have a look at that. And but anyway, what that shows is that Klopp seems very optimistic about Salah playing. Salah's basically leapt off the plane as a losing AFCON finalist, ready to prove that he's the best player in the world, and he's up for it. And he's come, there was a video of him striding onto the pitch there. He himself has said he's ready to go. It's on the Thursday. He's in training today. He trains again tomorrow. And yeah, he's played loads of minutes, but I just think he's going to play. And if he...
Well, what was it he was called? I think Klopp called him a physicality monster or something like that.
There we go. Can't argue with that. A physicality monster. And he's... I mean, you were talking before we came on air about the Crystal Palace game last season where Salah was benched, and then it was almost like it got him angry. It was like he was like prodding a tiger or something in a cave. He just came out and just went nuts. It was something like, suddenly it was like 17 points later. It was like, what a performance. So I think there's 3 scenarios with Salah. 1, he starts and just goes crazy against a really bad Leicester defence. 2, he comes on in the last 20 minutes and goes crazy against an even more angry Salah, goes crazy against Leicester defence. Or 3, he doesn't play at all, in which case Josh King will come off my bench and Jota will be my captain instead. So see, that's the plan, you see. Every week I plan these things, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but what do you reckon? Do you think I've made a mistake getting Salah in against Leicester, or...
I don't know. I don't think we can ever call it a mistake. I mean, looking at the data, the XGC data that you just read out there regarding Leicester is pretty intense. I mean, we just saw them lose to Nottingham Forest only a couple of days ago. Yeah. So we know, and we've seen it consistently, their defence has been absolutely shocking this season. So in that respect, I think you look at Salah, should he play, and think he looks an excellent option. That's the best team to play against at the moment. I think it's risky only insofar. I think it's probably riskier if you didn't know you were going to get him anyway, if that makes sense. This is a decision maybe it turns out that you jumped a week too early. He comes on for 20 minutes, doesn't get something. Seems unlikely, personally thinking. Maybe he doesn't come on at all, but then you've already got him and you know that you
Yeah.
want him. You know that he's
That's it.
essential.
He's
So,
a headache. He's not just a really great
yeah,
player.
it's a decision you have to make
You have
about
to
when.
get him in for Game Week 26. So I know
Yeah.
now I don't have to worry about that. Next week I can focus on Fernandez. And Game Week 26, I don't know what I can focus on. But I don't need to focus on Salah anymore.
Something new and exciting.
Something new and exciting. But yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm going to go with. And also, as people were pointing out in the live chat, it's very rare that Salah is a differential captaincy. And he's going to be under 100% effective ownership. So, well, hopefully. Hopefully it'll be good for me. I've got, before I explain what I'm doing, as you did about Game Weeks 26, 7 and 8, I'll just put this slide up here of the last 4 matches with the best, essentially best Game Week 24 players. So I haven't filtered this by teams or doubles or anything like that. It's just in it goes. And it shows that, now you were talking about Edouard here. So,
yes.
Hey presto. He's top for expected goal involvement in the last 4 matches.
I hope he lives up to it
So
this game week.
He looks absolutely golden for a double, and I do not rule out making that move myself somewhere. That could be my surprise 26 move, but I think you're onto a right winner with him.
Well, I just don't think he has a lot of competition for appealing options, particularly in that sort of, unless you're going up to Kane. Yeah. I mean, who looks better than him as a pick at the moment?
Definitely. I mean, you mentioned Kane there. So within the top 5 is Kane and Son. Level with Kane in terms of expected goal involvement of 3.63 over the last 4 matches is Salah. And so Salah's there. So this proves that he's still up there. 12 shots inside the box, which is joint level with Ollie Watkins and Kane and Edouard. So he's right up there. And then Son there, just marginally a bit lower there, but still 11 shots inside the box. And some of the other players of note there, Lacazette could be of an interest, could be an intriguing differential in Game Week 26 for Arsenal's double. Bowen, this is why I was considering him as a captaincy, but then Roy Hodgson took over Watford and I wasn't quite so sure. Tony for Brentford, Mane, he's quite good as well, a bit of a world champion. Calvert-Lewin and Watkins, who I'm clinging on to still. And I've got no reason to get rid of Ollie Watkins. It's not like Antonio, because you're getting rid of Antonio. Do you need to make that move, by the way? Or have you?
I have done it.
You've managed to. Yeah, obviously.
I mean, this is the thing. I always leave these moves to the edge. Last deadline stream, I ended up on an 8-point hit halfway through the stream. I think poor Ted nearly had a nervous breakdown trying to do the same thing.
I can't with these things because I've got too many buttons to press, so I just make the move before and just leave it. What will be will be, because otherwise, and it's quite good because it means I'll take a hit otherwise. But again, I'm always taking hits. But so these are a good bunch of players here. So just going back to my bus team. So what my vague plan is for, if I can get it up on my screen here. So so obviously I'm getting Salah in. Salah's in for this week. Don't have to worry about that. Game week 25, I'm reluctantly going to part ways with Gallagher because he doesn't have a double.
Correct,
because one of his games is Chelsea and that is his parent club, so he can't play that. So it's just a single for him. So Gallagher to Bruno, who will be my captain. So I'll go into that just with De Gea and Bruno, and I think I'm fine with that. I can live with that. That double game week there. And Bruno will be my captain. So my betting is that 2 Brunos will outscore 1 Gallagher that week. Then
I would hope so.
I hope so. Then in game week 26, I've already got Salah, and so I will triple captain him. And then I could possibly move Bruno on to Son and make Son a bit of a long-term pick, because I think of all my of all my long-term premium options, I really like Son to have. I think He offers that
Yeah.
little bit more value than Kane. That's not to dismiss Kane. Just doesn't quite fit with my team, Kane. But I still think he's a great option. And I will take a hit to get rid of Steele and upgrade him. I'll have enough money if I do that to get Ramsdale in. So I'll be rocking a Ramsdale De Gea back line because
Pricey.
I'm not spending a lot on premium strikers. And I quite like that because that means I've got De Gea for when Ramsdale blanks. I've also got Ramsdale, for that lucrative double there, and any future doubles. And then I can take my pick of which one to move down because it's quite a nice cash cow to have. So I can move possibly to Foster, and that frees up well over $1 million. I might, there's Nick Pope, Sarr. There's all sorts of.
There are some good options.
There's some really good goalkeeping options, and there's so many double game weeks, and goalkeepers are really good in double game weeks. They really, because there's so many routes to points there, bonus and save points.
And Pope has loads of games to come, so
Pope is. So I don't rule out getting him in, and I quite like the flexibility of having De Gea and Ramsdale. So De Gea will probably move on at some point, just because Ramsdale have more games because he's got more doubles to come. And so game week 30, so game week 27, I should be fine. Basically, I'm going to do what you've done, I think, with your Liverpool players. I will probably move if I move any of them on. If I decide to field 11, not 10. I'll move Jota on, and then I will look to upgrade a defender to Robertson, and that'll be mine. Robertson, Alexander-Arnold, and Salah. I think that's probably the best 3 Liverpool. I think you're right there. And then free hit game week 30 probably, because I won't have too many of those players, and I'm not keen on stocking up. I've done that before. I remember with West Brom were one of the only teams playing. I ended
Middlesbrough and all sorts of things.
I ended up with like 3 West Brom players for like eternity. And then I'll probably wildcard at some point in game week 31, 34 when we know what doubles are coming and whether a bench boost at a particular time is lucrative. So that's me really. I think game week 33 may be a good time to free hit because of a mixture of singles and blanks and doubles, so that might be good for some people. I will try and navigate that with a wild card, or I might end up landing okay with that. So that's sort of my vague plan really. Just some people in the chat have asked about so Joe, what's your take on KDB over Son for a long-term pick? Well, I actually prefer Son over KDB for a long-term pick. But for this week, KDB. But it's just that bit cheaper. And you were talking about Edwards, and so was it how Edwards like $1 million more than King, for example?
So Edwards 6'5".
Yeah. So that's what you can do with that extra money. You can get I'll put a slide up again. The form striker, the form player at the moment. More than Kane. So yeah, I think that's good. Hey, I've got some more slides because we're going to move ahead to game week 25 and 26. So we're talking about Brighton and Manchester United. Manchester United have Southampton and Brighton at home, and Brighton have Watford and obviously Manchester United. So these are the best players. So I've handed over the stats. Or rather, actually, I think Sam handed the stats over to them free. This has been quite a chain of getting this graphic up. It's last 4 matches, and this is the top players just from Manchester United and Brighton. So Kylie, Bruno's top, but in terms of expected goal involvement, the last 4, Bruno Fernandes 1.82. He's the best option from these 2 teams.
I mean, that's quite
Yeah, but going back to game week 24 for players, Edwards almost double that.
Yeah.
So it proves that the 25 options are not that great.
And I think that says a lot about, both you and I sort of said we were quite content if we went into this with just a keeper and Bruno. I think that's quite telling. There might be some people who have a bit more exposure already, but it doesn't feel like a double game week to over invest in.
No.
Because it's quite difficult but particularly when we have another double right off the back
Yeah.
of it that we want to optimize for as well. I look at this and I think some could and probably will do quite well, but it's not thrilling.
No, so for those listening on the podcast, the table we got up on the screen shows that Fernandes is the best you can get from these two. Then Ronaldo, 1.69, well under half, and Edouard, and he's half the price. So, you know, that tells everything really about Ronaldo's value to FPL managers this season. Mwepo at Brighton, if he's fit, is only costs 5.9, could be a differential. McAllister, who's excellent for Brighton.
I do like him.
I think if Brighton are going to score, he may be involved. Same with Trossard, if he can. He's got COVID at the moment. So McAllister or Trossard would be my tips for the sort of differential slot if you wanted to like take a punt on a double game week player differential. Then Rashford and Elanga, I think are also in that same category. Nice, intriguing differentials. Welbeck and Fred are the sort of also Rams, but we're not going to convince people, are we? By by these players. So I think that tells the story with the stats. But when we move on to best 26 players, so once again I've filtered out by those with a double game week. So this is last 4 matches here. So I put the fixtures up just to remind people. So it shows that Liverpool, Arsenal, Watford, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Tottenham, Wolves and Leeds all have a double, and the teams I read out there are in a sliding scale of awfulness of their fixtures. So Liverpool top with Norwich and Leeds at home. It does not get better than that. And then Leeds the bottom amongst the double game weekers with Arsenal, Manchester United. So your man Edouard there still there obviously. Then it's Kane, Salah, and Son. What prevents me putting the triple captain on Kane or Son is just their fixtures are not that great. You've got City, then Burnley, so it's whatever you can get out of the City game. And other ones to consider there is Lacazette, an intriguing differential, I think. Mane, another differential. If people want to go down that route, he would be out playing by them. Rafinha, who's in your team, in your side.
He is. Yeah, I've actually got 6 of those will be in my side come 26. So I'll have Edouard, Salah, Son, Rafinha, Martinelli, and Robbo. So that's quite an encouraging table.
That is good. Yeah, and so Martinelli is in my team. And then your man Robertson. So you were talking about, and this is why Robertson is such a good asset here. This is inspected goal involvement for a defender, and he's there. So he is the best one. So people might think, where's Alexander-Arnold? And I thought that as well. I thought I'd made a terrible mistake and I'd accidentally left him off. But he's actually just a little bit further down there. I think his expected goal involvement was something like 1.27 or 1.3, something like that. So he's still a good option, obviously. But Robertson's the one.
And he's also the only defender on that list. So that is
very good option. Very good option. So for me, I'll have one... Not many of these. I will not have many of these players. So I'm still stuck with a lot of my doublers will be, say, from the likes of Watford and so on. So, I think you'll be in a really strong position because it's quality and quantity of play. But
So hopefully that all comes through because double game weeks haven't been my friend this season so far. No. But surely one of them has to reward me. I have to be rewarded at some point for my efforts.
I always think with these sorts of... I mean, we're getting so many double game weeks. I think only 1 or 2 of the weeks are not going to be double game weeks.
Yep,
and
basically,
And some will be down to really good planning. Some will be down to the luck of when they're announced. And it's like, well, that's landed well for me.
Yeah.
But in your case, obviously the planning here, and sometimes it's like some weeks it's like, yeah, that's my week, and like, oh yeah, I've done really. And then some weeks are like, you just got to take your medicine. And for me, it's I just have a sneaky feeling it's going to be somewhere around game week 33, maybe game week 30. I might just take my medicine with these if I don't free hit in game week 30. But if you're targeting Edouard. And I don't know, Kane and Son. I've seen Kane and Son in a lot of teams, and I think they're very wise picks at the moment. they're looking really good. I mean, if they can beat Brighton, then that's it. Well, that's it. They can beat anyone. So I think there's some really good options there.
What's also noticeable in that list is just how affordable some of them are.
Yeah.
You know, you look at Rafinha, Martinelli, you know, Edward. You've got the premiums in Kane, Salah, sort of Son, Mane, but there's value in that list as well, and that's sort of indicative of what this season has been like.
Yeah, definitely. The deadline's gone. We were chatting so much.
Yeah.
So it's gone. So I've got Salah as my cap. Have I got Salah as my captain? It's one of those moments.
Hopefully.
Where I don't know if I saved it. Hopefully.
Oh God.
Hopefully, if I haven't, I think I have. I'm gonna hope.
That would just be cruel.
I don't know.
After all of that.
It's past now, so I don't know. So I think I've got Salah captained for this, and I don't know what is going on in the chat. Lots of people are saying Ronaldo benched. Some people are saying don't listen to the people saying Ronaldo's benched. At 6:30 we will know. And is it 6:45? So if we're still going at 6:45, it probably won't be.
Yeah.
That's when we'll actually find out. So lots of speculation going on at the moment. But Ronaldo's not in any of our team, so I don't really care.
Yeah, no United here, so that's fine.
No, I've got De Gea, so hopefully he's not benched. Let's move on to some of the other features we've got. So just before we mention the community team that we're running, we've got a few charity things to mention. Okay, so the first one here is my charity. Well, not I don't own this charity, but I'm going to be 50 in a couple of weeks, which is really massively old, isn't it? It's like
older.
I think I've gone through most of my life just thinking 50 is really old, and suddenly I'm going to be 50. So that's just really weird.
I think you just frame it differently, so it's like you're just going to be really wise.
Yeah, I'm going to be really wise.
Yeah,
so I thought
different language. Yeah.
I thought a best way to mark this great occasion of being really old and wise is to help out some the mental health of young people who've been through a hell of a lot through the pandemic in the UK and abroad. And there's a charity called Young Minds who champion young people's mental health. They do all sorts of lobbying to make sure it's up the agenda of politicians, but also they offer tangible help as well. Lots of online resources and help there for young people who need help with their mental health at the moment. And I know mental health is something we've spoken about on the Scoutcast because fantasy football really helps some people in troubled times. It's like it helps you forget your troubles and you can focus on who you're going to captain and all these types of things, and it can be quite good, especially the camaraderie in the FPL Twitter community. So for those that fancy giving to Young Minds to mark the passing of my 49th year into my 50th, it's justgiving.com/fundraising/Joe JOE hyphen Lepper LEPPER. So please do pop over to that, and I'll put that in the description as well. More charity. Okay, this one is an exciting event, the North v South. Now I know they've been getting a lot of publicity on a lot of other pods as well, so we'll do the same as well. This is what Meet the Manager guest Benny Blanco is organising. Lots of well-known figures in the fantasy football taking part in a North v South FPL community charity match in Birmingham. Tickets are now on sale for this, so you can actually see the likes of Gianni, Ben Krellin, James and Suj from Planet FPL, Ben Dinnery, FPL Raptor, David Munday, former fantasy football scout, editor, and many more. You can see them in action and their soccer skills. It's taking place on the 28th of May in Birmingham, and you should go to the website gw39northvsouth.co.uk, which is on the screen now. So that's got more information there, and do support them. I think it's Street Child. I can't remember the name of the charity. I think it's Street Child who are being supported there, but all the information will be there. So we're managing someone's team, someone in the community's top 100 manager, Alex. When we can remember, which is most weeks, we are managing his team. So we've by sort of less is more, we're doing okay with him. So we've sort of hovered around the 300k mark. We're at the 269k mark now. We kept Salah all this time.
Wow.
So this is his team now. I have switched the captaincy to Salah, all in. All in here. So his team I think is really good and set up nicely for the doubles. So he's got Ramsdale in goal, Davis at Spurs, Cancelo, Alexander-Arnold, Matt Targett, who we got as a Villa defender, who's now a Newcastle defender. So we got to see his kit change. Salah, we're going to captain, Jota vice captain, and Bowen is there. And we've also got Dennis, King, Ronaldo. And I think I may have moved Diop just before the show. I think I've moved Diop in possibly to the first sub because I think he's going to get minutes and he's against Watford. Got Trossard there, so hopefully he is fit as a nice differential for Gameweek 25. And we just rolled the transfer this week. We're just going to roll it. And we've got Ronaldo instead of Fernandes. So I think that's just the way it's going to be. We're going to captain Ronaldo for this one. We may make a move. I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. We'll discuss it on the next. I'll discuss it in the FPL community and with Seb and Andy as well to see what we'll do ahead of Game Week 25. But the aim really is I want 2 free transfers for Game Week 26. So I want to go into Game Week 26 with 2 free transfers, and I think it's nicely set up, and it's quite good to for people who might be in similar situations here with a good thing, Salah, a bad thing, too much Watford. so these are the decisions we'll have to come to. But I would like to upgrade those Watford players, and Edouard so far I think you can just see. I don't know. I mean, Jason Punchin was a Palace player that has done well for me in double game weeks, and there's always Benteke, whoever. There's always a Palace player that you don't think is going to do well. But Edouard, I think, could be that one this time as well. So we usually go to our teams. We've already talked about our teams at the moment. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask those in the live chat if you could just fire me and Kylie some questions, some quick fire questions. So we're just going to sort of recap what we're doing, and then we'll go into the live chat and we'll ask questions. So if you're on the live chat at the moment, do ask some questions. Try not to clog out with other things, messages, but just get some questions in there for easiest for us to see. So just go back to your team then, Kylie, so if we can remember what you've done here. So your bus team at the moment, it was, now what were the moves again? It was Antonio was out and
Antonio and Duffy out for Edouard and Robertson, and I captained De Bruyne and I vice captained Bowen. So you can see that obviously Dawson has moved down to first on the bench, so that Robertson can play there.
Yeah.
3-4. Was it 3-5-2?
Yeah. No, 3-5-2. I think I really like 3-5-2 at the moment, and I think even those with perhaps with Harry Kane in up front, who I think is probably the best and only premium striker to get. I still think it works out 3-5-2 moving to a 4-4-2. I'm such a 3-4-3 get premium striker person, and I feel really, I don't know, uncomfortable but liberated. So
it's freeing.
It's freeing.
Just dispensing with all the expensive and disappointing forwards.
Oh, no, and they have been disappointing. So this is me, just to recap. Mason Mount here, I'll do it with the butchered graphic. Is, I think, because I can't quite remember whether I pressed the button, Salah captain, and I've got De Gea, Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, Rudiger, Jota, Bowen, Martinelli, Gallagher, Salah captain, Watkins, and I think I've gone for Dennis, not King, and I've just like a Hail Mary that a bloke called Roy will like a bloke called Dennis. That's what I'm going to hope for. So let's have a look in the live chat. So hopefully we've got some questions here. Okay, got one here from Nuclear Atoms for you. Kane or Son until Game Week 30? What do you reckon?
For me, I actually think both of them are good options. It's so team dependent. And I hate that caveat because it's such a boring sort of fence sitting thing to say, but it's so true. I mean, Kane has been really impressive. I think over the last 6 game weeks, he's essentially been the top forward for pretty much all attacking metrics, not XG or XGI as we saw, but for shots on target, goals, attempts, big chances. So he's been really, really good during that period. And I think he could prove a really good option, particularly maybe those who have Ronaldo in their team currently for Game Week 25. And then it's quite an easy move to do Ronaldo to Kane for the doubles and beyond. I think for people who have Bruno, it's therefore easier to go for a Son. So it's really team dependent. I always like Son because I think Son for me feels a more comfortable long-term hold.
Yeah.
I tend to get itchy feet when I have Kane and I look at him like a cash cow in a way that I don't quite look at Son. So that's part of the reason.
I think Son. I would go Son. It just fits with what I'm looking at, and I think he's 2 million cheaper, and he'll get similar returns. So let's have a look. Is Alt Nori a good pick for Game Week 26 at Wolves? I think so. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I love Wolves. I mean, they're quite boring, but I mean, I love Wolves' defense in that they're the right kind of boring. They've been quite predictable. They've been keeping clean sheets. They've been really effective, and he's quite cheap as well. I think he's only like 4.2, 4.3 or something.
I'll look back on this season, and people will have all sorts of memories, some good, bad. And my main memory will be I got rid of Connor Cody too early.
Yes.
I could have got loads more points by just keeping Connor Cody, and I didn't. And so, Wolves defender, definitely get.
I don't think you can go too far wrong. They don't have blanks, that we know of anyway. And they do have a double in 26. That's kind of the perfect combo.
Abdullah asks, is Rafinha a good option for the upcoming fixtures? Robert also asked similar about Rafinha as well. So he's in your team, isn't he? So he's not going anywhere?
Yes. No, I love Rafinha. I think he is a great player. The fixtures aren't bad. They're not amazing. The double is not good. Okay. So it's obviously Liverpool and United. Now, United is obviously less concerning of the two of those, but it's not ideal on paper. We do know what Rafinha can do. However, he has carried the attacking threat of that team. And I think he's just such a stable option for me. He is flagged at the moment, so hopefully he's fine. But he's the kind of player that you can slot in your team, even with some slightly troubling fixtures, and feel that you're still capable of getting returns out of him.
Zavon Moore asks, it's a genuine question. He said, I've just sold Bruno, but you keep talking about a double with Brighton. When is this happening? I don't know whether he's serious. If he is, well, try and get him back, perhaps, because I'll just say it's next week, Game Week 25. They put Manchester United double then, so try and get him back. Get him back, or go for an outrageous differential with maybe Rashford or Sancho instead.
Yeah,
if you want to be a little bit different there. Ivan, if you could choose only one, Robbo or Jota, who will return more points over the next 4 game weeks? I know what your answer is.
Yes, well, that's it. I've gone all in, so I'm hoping that I'm right. But I do think that there's rotation risk with both of them, or rest risk, I guess, with both of them, because there are alternatives in Firmino and obviously Tsimikas for Robertson. But I just think that Robertson has really come back into his element. He's looking amazing every game. He's had multiple games where he's returned more than 1 assist. So I do fancy him to outscore Jota. Jota's not quite clinical enough, and he gets so many chances, but he can frustrate quite a lot. Could still hurt me though.
We've got here, let's reading down the questions again. Do you, this from Lennox, do you think KDB to Fernandes for 25, then Fernandes to Son 26 is worth it? He already has Salah. I'm going to say yes, that is worth it.
It is worth it, but if there was a way to not have to get rid of De Bruyne in 25, just simply because he plays Norwich, that would be great. But obviously you'd be more afraid of going without Bruno next week.
Definitely. Antonio for Weghorst in the Burnley double. So that's the first appearance of my bad translation for Weghorst.
I have no idea how to say
that. So Antonio for him. Yeah, I mean, I think Edouard would be better. I think he'd be better going Edouard.
Yeah.
Myself. I don't know. I don't know whether he's going to be any good in the Premier League yet.
I think we need to see. It's, you know, he's joined. We've seen this one game that was a 0-0, and it's been so long since last fixtures. So I think you really want to watch this game week, the next one, and see how he settles in. I mean, people think he's going to do fairly well at Burnley, but Edouard is quite a known quantity at the moment. So
I'm just going to finish off here because we better go. We've been well over an hour now. But Phil Robertson asks, who would you sell to get Bruno for double game week 25? Foden, Norwich away, or Jota, doubles 26? Well, I mean, I would say only if you've got a similar plan to you to move Jota essentially to Salah and then get Robertson in.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing that, just get rid of Foden. Keep Jota.
You want 3 Liverpool for 26.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for all your questions. I'm not going. I think hopefully we've covered most of them there. Nuclear Atoms has given me some pronunciation advice. We'll come back to that in a future one, and I'll better get that wrong that time instead. But in the meantime, Kylie, thanks so much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure to be on the deadline stream for all the excitement there, and I am quite nervously wondering if I did actually press the button. I know I transferred in Salah, but I'm not sure where he is in my team, and it could be one of those annoying moments where he's like at the back somewhere on the bench.
Hopefully not. I'm sure it'll be fine.
I'm sure it'll be fine, hopefully. You never know though, because obviously we've been doing this. But Kylie, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with your game week and good luck with all your planning.
And thanks for having me. It's been great fun being on here, and best of luck, and hopefully Salah is in fact your captain.
Hopefully. See you later. Bye all.
See ya. Bye.